Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. Let me tell you what this show is about. This is a show where we like to have real talk about real things. We like to talk about things in education, employment, mental health, physical health, self care, or anything else that is steamy. This show is all about having open dialogue about things that we keep to ourselves or we talk about in our circles or we don't really put out there, but we're taking all that and we're putting it all out in the open. But all of this is not just for gossip, but it is to educate you. So I want you to learn something from these shows as it's a part of my company and Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So, of course, in my tutoring sessions, the goal is for the kids to do better than they were the day before, right? So, my goal in all of these shows is for you to do better than the day before. And today, I am bringing back a topic and my guest. So let me tell you what that topic is that I'm bringing back. So the topic that I'm bringing back is what is antisocial personality disorder? So this is part 2 of that conversation. And my guest today, who is back on Hot Topics, her name is Amira Martin. And let me remind you about who she is. So, Amira Martin, she has her LCSW-R, and she is a communication expert and psychotherapist who owns Amira for Her, which is a group private practice and teaches at Columbia University School of Social Work. She is committed to establishing safe and supportive therapy spaces. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring her to the stage. Hi, Amira. How are you doing today?
Hi, Gabrielle. I'm doing okay. Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
Thank you for coming back on Hot Topics. I wanted to continue this discussion about antisocial personality disorder. I thought it was very riveting what we talked about last time. And so I wanted to delve into that a little bit more.
Terrific.
So, if you wouldn't mind, I'm just gonna have you do like a brief overview of what antisocial personality disorder is.
Absolutely terrific. Absolutely. So, antisocial personality disorder is a mental health condition, right? The main thing that you consistently see, if I had to choose one thing, is a constant and consistent pattern of really disregarding other people. Other people don't matter. You'll see that, and you'll see a lack of empathy and a violation of others' rights, right? Like these are people who don't have necessarily don't have a moral compass realistically and don't have the sense of like care, compassion, and empathy for others. Some of the things that you'll also see are, besides a lack of empathy, are like deceitfulness, impulsivity, disregarding societal norms, disregarding rules. The rules don't apply to them. When you think about the prevalence, um, the research has suggested 1 to 4% of the general population. But honestly, I have to say, as a psychotherapist and as someone who has been in relationship with someone with antisocial personality disorder, and the commonalities that I've seen across, you know, just across the board as a therapist, I really think it's significantly higher than that. I would say probably, if I had to guess professionally, my guess would be around 10% of the population. It's also diagnosed more in men than in women. Um, so that's what antisocial personality disorder is.
Thank you for that
Mhm.
reminder. So on the last show, I also wanted to reiterate that there are common there's more layman terms or more common terms for
Yes.
antisocial personality disorder. Can you go into that more?
Absolutely. So the common terms are psychopath and sociopath, which are sometimes really looked at in a clinical way, right? So someone with psychopathy, right? There are two ways to have psychopathy. One way is to inherit it genetically, right? And these people actually, when their brains have been studied, there are differences in their brains than the rest of the population's brains. And then the other way is by how you are treated. So they're considered type 1 psychopath and type 2 psychopaths. Type 1 being the genetic, type 2 being based on how you were treated. A type 2 psychopath is also considered a sociopath. All of this falls under the umbrella of the clinical label, the clinical term of antisocial personality disorder.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So now I wanted to I wanted to see if we can demonstrate what it looks like to the common person, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
as you were talking last time, um, I was just thinking about the portrayal of psychopathy and sociopathy in television shows, right? And I think a
Mm-hmm.
very popular one is pretty much all the Law and Orders, the Law and Orders, the Criminal
Mm-hmm.
Intent. I love my cop shows. Um, Criminal Minds is another one. Oh, Criminal Minds might actually be the best example because that's pretty much all that they do. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the psychopath is the killer that doesn't care about people. They're usually serial killers. Um, they're it's like they have no regard for human life, or they're usually like there's a torture chamber and
Mm-hmm.
arms and legs and
Right.
so
In
it's there's
somebody's basement, right?
yeah. They have a
Yeah.
mask on, or so there's this portrayal of psychopaths um in terms of this disregard for human life, right? And so we have to lock them away. And there's also
Mm-hmm.
the portrayal of sociopaths. um and I mean, like you said, like they usually become that way.
Mm-hmm.
So this portrayal of sociopaths on Criminal Minds as well, in that it's someone was abused when they were a
Right.
child, and now they're just angry, and they hate people. um I think on shows it usually tends to be women who are sociopaths on the shows. They're
Mm-hmm.
usually this abused by men, and so they hate
Yeah.
men, um and so they're usually like they're killing all the men, or um they're trying to seek some sort of revenge against
Mm-hmm.
the patriarchy, right? So
Right. Right.
so I guess it's two different things I'm asking you. So
Mm-hmm.
focusing on psychopathy, what is your thoughts on, or however you want to go, the portrayal of this disorder in television shows?
Yeah, for sure. So, I feel like when it comes to television shows, right, it's definitely dramatized in such a way to entertain us, right? And also realistically, if every woman who was abused by a man went off killing men, there wouldn't be any men left, right? Our population would die because no one would exist, right? Like when we think about the amount of abuse that really happens in our society. Um, So when it's portrayed on television, a lot of times what you see is just that, right? Someone who's a killer, someone who's, extremely violent and willing to cause someone's death, someone who wants to torture and maim other people. But in real life, what a real life psychopath looks like is someone who hooks their way into someone or something pretty much in everything that they get involved in. They hook their claws in and get everything out that they possibly can, and then they let go when they're able to, when they've gotten everything that they can get, or when they're pushed away, right? So these are like the predatory relationships you might see, where you might see generally the psychopath is a male. That's much more common than a female, but there are female psychopaths for sure. I don't want to pretend there aren't. And I've met and worked with some who have, presented themselves in couples therapy. So I want to put that out there. That exists in all genders. all genders. Um, but generally, what you see in real life is someone who gets in a relationship with someone else. This is in the relationship part or in the family part. Someone who gets in a relationship with someone else with the sole intent of using them for everything that they can, financially, sexually, emotionally. Um, I know someone who ended up, after bilking one person, they moved on to another relationship and they started prostituting that wife, that second partner. They prostituted them. So these are the people who really don't have the regard or care or concern for the people that are around them that they're connected with, and they will use and manipulate them in every way they can. There are also people who commit a multitude of crimes, right? They don't just, rob banks, right? They rob banks, they steal people's purses, they rape women or men, they molest children, they cheat on their taxes, and that's the least of our concern, right? If they're working for an institution, they're going to be usually finding a way to get what they can out of that institution in a way that's not okay at all, right? I don't mean they're going to work super hard and get a raise. They're going to find a way to steal money, steal items, steal things from that institution. And this is how they operate pretty much in every aspect of their life. That's another thing that you sometimes see on television is like that psychopath will be married and will treat their wife incredibly well, but go out and kill, kill, kill. That's less likely. What's more likely is that they're also abusing their wife at home and going out and committing other crimes, common everyday crimes. Sometimes they will kill. I don't want to pretend that they won't kill, but that's not the general crime that you see. The general crime that you see is all sorts of financial abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and stealing, breaking the law in other ways. They really don't feel like they are, like the law is above them. They feel like they should be able to do whatever they want. They don't care about being hurt or being harmed in return. It's called callous disregard, right? Like they're not fearful of the law, they disregard it. They disregard what can happen to them after you report that they have assaulted you. They disregard what can happen if they should get caught. They don't think they will, but they also really don't care. They lack the insight to think that far ahead and to really care and believe that they're going to be caught. They think that they are going to outsmart others. So that's kind of, those are some of the differences between what it looks like in real life, which again is a multitude of everyday crimes, and being in relationships where they actually use others, being in a workplace where they rip off the institution that they're working for, um, possibly pushing people into prostitution, that sort of thing, versus what it looks like on television, which is the person with the axe who's grinding up someone's leg, right? Another thing that is important to think about is that there are sociopaths and psychopaths among us every day, right? That 10% number that I believe is true. Again, the research says 1 to 4. I believe it's higher than that. I don't think it's researched enough. It's definitely a massive public health crisis because these people are committing, again, a multitude of crimes. And that one person, it's been studied, that one person who has one of these diagnoses impacts and shatters the lives of dozens of people throughout their life, and shatters to the point of, severe trauma, or not being able to recover from the damage that was done to them financially, physically, emotionally, sexually, all of that sort of stuff. So I really believe it's a public health crisis for those reasons, because again, these are high impact individuals who impact so many people in such a horrible way. And we don't research or talk about it enough, or this would just be common knowledge, right? So the other thing that I think is really important is that not all sociopaths and psychopaths are killers, right? A lot of these people, because of that desire to be in charge, to be the authority, to be, the one who tells others what to do, that's part of their desire. Because of that, they go into fields like law, like being an officer of the law, like being an attorney, like becoming a judge, um, CEOs, people who are in charge in organizations, people who work in even in higher management positions. Those are some of the people, those are some of the positions that they're attracted to. So you may run into those people and not even have a clue that they are a psychopath or that they're a sociopath. You just see that they're hella ambitious and that they don't seem to care about how other people feel when they make decisions. That's what you would see. Again, there's not going to be an axe on their wall. You just see them push, 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 and not seem to really care much about others. They might be able to say, oh, yes, that's concerning. I'm so sorry. But you won't actually see that in their actions. So those are some of the differences.
Thank you. Thank you for outlining that,
Yeah.
it's tough, when because what I know about it, a lot I just learned from you just now, but also just thinking about the portrayal on on my favorite cop shows, they're all killers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
either killers or they're killers or rapists, or I mean, in order to get on those shows, you have to be some kind of killer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're usually portrayed as killers, but you're saying they're not all killers. They could just be, you know, your CEOs. They could be, the just I don't know, a simple grifter. Like would they also, I guess, would they
Yeah.
also be? Are they the people that like they'll date multiple people, but just to like I know I keep coming back to the woman, but like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
women who just date men for their money, and once they get their money, they leave them for the next one. Would
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. That could absolutely be part of it. So just like dating a man for his money, that alone wouldn't be enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And leaving someone, right? Like like regular people do mean things all the time and do hurtful things and uncaring, immoral things all the time. Um, but if they lack empathy, they lack regard for that person and the other people in their lives, right? Like if you see that persistent pattern of being a user, of being a taker, of being someone who doesn't emotionally connect or actually care about other people in the room, doesn't, have any real in depth concern for anyone, then that's more of a sign than just like that simple act of doing that horrible thing to someone. So you might see that they go and they find a mate and they present themselves as like um, part of what they do is they also mirror you when they're looking for a mate. They look for a mate who can support them financially or who they can get a lot out of. And when I say they mirror them, they act as if they look at you and they study you and they see what your personality is like, and then they present the same persona, right? So that you feel as if you found your soulmate. That's part of the trickery that they do in the beginning when they're looking for the next victim. So that woman who doesn't want to work, doesn't have any ambition to work, that's another potential symptom that you can find. There are different sorts of sociopaths and psychopaths, just like there are different personalities in people, right? So there are a good number of them who don't want to work, don't feel that they should have to work. If they have to work in any way, they have to be in charge, right? So that can be finding a way to be in charge in an illegal way, the prostitution, drug dealing, being in charge of a gang, being in charge of a bank robbery team, whatever it might be, or legal ways, right? But when they don't want to work, when they're that sort of person, you will see them go and find a mate who they can use, and they look for mates who have really particular qualities. And these qualities are cross gender, right? So they look for somebody who's highly empathic, highly educated, has attained a lot in their life. Um, all of these really specific traits. And Sandra L. Brown is a psychologist who has studied these traits, and she knows a lot about, has written books on what they look for and how they actually do this. There's actually like a whole process. So one of the things that they do when they're looking for their next victim, right, is they'll go up to someone, say at a party, and say something, and have start a conversation, and then they'll say something that really tests that person's empathy. So they'll talk about how, when they were 6, their brother got hit by a car and it was like the hardest time in their life, but blah blah blah, right? Like totally inappropriate for like the first 15 minutes of talking to someone at a party, but they're going to find a way to assess their next potential victims empathy. If they get a highly empathic response, or it might even, they'll often do that initially, but they'll, if they don't get the chance to do that initially, you can believe on that first date they're asking, they're putting stuff out there to test your level of empathy. And if they get the response, they get that highly empathic response, it's like, okay, this might be a good one, because I can do all the horrible shit, not work, lie about everything, pretend everything. They're probably going to believe in me because they believe in people in general, and they have this positive, optimistic, hardworking outlook. And eventually, when I do take off my mask and I show the monster that I am, it's probably going to take them a little bit longer to get there. And they may even try to help me to work through being a horrible person. So they're really looking for a really certain type of person that they can dig those claws into and use and abuse. Um, a lot of times, it won't be that they decided to move on to their next victim and they leave you behind. It'll be that you realize what happened and what's happening, and you figure out a way to get out, right? You fight your way out, you do whatever your way out, and then they have to move on to a next victim.
Of course, of course. So now, so now, how? I'm just wondering, like, if you have the boss that's like, I have to meet all these quotas, or else I'm gonna lose. So I'm gonna lose funding. So, every you're gonna work, for a month straight, no sleep. Like they're really like driving you to the bone, like or you're not allowed to take bathroom breaks or whatever. If it's really like cutthroat, is it safe to assume, oh, you're being a psychopath or a sociopath in that moment, or is it just, oh, this is just a moment? I guess what I'm trying to ask
Yeah.
is it easy to say, oh, you're being a psychopath if something is happening within a particular moment, or like, oh, can you be normal and then be a psychopath for 30 days and then go back to normal?
Right. No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, being a psychopath is a permanent state. You're never not a psychopath if you're a psychopath, right? Because you literally can and don't feel and express yourself and have all the feelings that other people have. Um, so could someone be basically a normal person and be hella abusive for a month if they are, misguided, mean spirited, immoral, or just being a horrible person? Yes, they can, right? Or if they're under a lot of stress and they take it out on everybody in front of them. You can be a healthy, normal person and be horrible to people around you, even people that you potentially care for, right? So it's not easy to see in that way, right? The real only way to see is a couple of ways, right? Number one is to like get their mental health record and take a look at it, right? Or ask them to go to a therapist with you and try to figure out what's happening. Or meet with their therapist with their permission if they have one, which they probably don't because they don't want help. Think that they don't care. Like they don't even have the effort to change anything, or they believe they can or care to. Um, but you would normally see well, it's two things. One is that not all psychopaths are going to commit crimes or be mean. You can be a psychopath and just be blah about everything, and you might work really hard, you might be driven, you might care a lot about your career, you might get married, you might have children, you might try to create a good life for yourself, and you might notice that the way that you feel a connection to others is different from how you perceive they feel. You might copy some of their behaviors in social situations. You might have learned that when you were younger, that you don't feel things quite the way that other people feel. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be a monster. It doesn't mean you're going to be violent. It doesn't mean you're going to be this horrible person. It doesn't mean that you're going to abuse, rape, kill, pillage, none of that. Um, but there are some psychopaths who absolutely feel the urge to do those horrible, violent things from day one, right? From literally, being a 4-year old, a 3-year old, a 2-year old. You see them, biting other kids, attacking nonstop, and that is a normal biting phase, right? But then there's also like you see things that happen when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like by 12, they're, or 14, they're being diagnosed with conduct disorder and that sort of thing. So it's not that all psychopaths are horrible, like that abusive boss. But yeah, that abusive boss could be a psychopath. Would you know necessarily? No. If you see the one telltale sign that you see in a lot of psychopaths who are abusive in some way and who do like the criminal side of things is that they commit multiple types of crime because they're not really about trying to earn money to get whatever. It's like, how can I use and abuse in this situation? That's how I can use and abuse. Okay, great. So every situation that they go into, just like we carry our personalities with us everywhere that we go, they carry the elements of who they are with them everywhere that they go. So everywhere that they go is a new opportunity to abuse, to misuse, to treat, and to try to dominate, right? That's what they're looking for. So if you have this boss who does those things, but then you also know that they're embezzling funds from the company, that that they've abused someone that they said they care about, that they like, you see that pattern broader, then that would be a sign that that person could have psychopathy, and doesn't have to, but could.
So now, can you, by looking, can you tell the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath?
You really can't. You really can only know that as like a therapist, a mental health professional, doing an in-depth assessment and history, right? And that history for the sociopath would include could include significant child abuse and neglect, but for the sociopath it would include significant child abuse and neglect because that is why they are a sociopath. That's why they have that limited ability to connect and feel empathic and care for others. um, they haven't learned it. They haven't grown those, so to speak, grown those muscles, but the ability, the basic ability is there. So you'll see a little bit more empathy and concern for others, especially the people who are closer to them in their close circle, than you would with someone else, like someone who's a psychopath.
So, so I mean, so it all comes down to empathy. It sounds like,
Yes.
the ability to feel what others are feeling, to understand people's emotions, to give other people consideration for things. So it really comes down to interpreting emotion and acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
those emotions
Yeah.
and act and reacting to it pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that's a great point for sure. And that is what it all boils down to, for sure. Even though a lot of people with this disorder are the impulsive, deceitful, like that's the norm that you would see, there are people who are not, again. So that's why empathy is the key ingredient, right? Like, are you empathic? Do you care for other people? Can you imagine and put yourself in someone else's footsteps? Do you love? Do you feel a deep sense of love towards the people who you're connected to? um, a sociopath won't feel that deep sense of love. Like they may feel some love, some connection, but or they may feel none at all. You know. So when you think about like, I know I think I mentioned that before, but like Lizzie Borden and how she like hacked up someone in her family in the middle of the night for no reason, right? Like literally not feeling an ounce of empathy or concern for the people that you have breakfast with, people who have raised you, people who have taken care of you all your life. Like not having empathy is a very dangerous thing. And then it's not only a lack of empathy, but it's a lack of remorse. So you can do any horrific thing and you won't feel a sense of guilt about it at all, right? So even like that boss or that person who's in a power position who is a psychopath and is not, harming people physically, they can do pretty horrific things in organizations and make these large cuts or do whatever, whatever needs to happen to make the organization work in whatever way they think it'll work better. And they won't lose an hour of sleep over it. They'll be fine the next day. They'll be fine for weeks. So things can be falling down around them. They're just like, oh, okay, well, we'll try to figure out how to fix that.
So now, can psychopaths and sociopaths, can they love themselves? Because we're talking about empathy. Is it just they don't feel anything at all, or what if they love themselves and say, I love myself more than I
That's a
love you, and so
yeah.
I'm gonna attend to my needs and my needs alone. So is
Mhm.
there self empathy?
No, there's really not. So when we think of loving ourselves, like there's like so many layers to that, right? There's like treating ourselves with kindness. There is loving ourselves physically, accepting ourselves. There is loving who we are and our kind acts or the things that we, or our intellect or our ability to connect or our uniqueness, like whatever it is, right? Like all these really rich components of self love for healthy people, right? Um, but when you think about like someone who's a psychopath, it's not um it's not loving themselves in that same way, right? It's like my need, my desire matters more than anything else, right? Which is very different from like truly valuing and loving yourself, right? It's like my desire matters more than your life, right? So me wanting to have whatever I have, whatever I want to get from you, matters more than ruining your life, crushing you, defeating you, abusing you, maybe even killing you, right? Because I have this desire right now, right? So a lot of child molesters might even have psychopathy, right? Um, just people who do these horrible crimes because they don't care. They care about their desire in that moment and having power in that moment, having power overall. So, and also when it comes to feelings, right? So I know you asked about like, can they feel a wide range of feelings? No, they cannot. They feel anger and they feel depression, they feel sadness. And that's pretty much, they can laugh, they can find things funny, they can laugh about things, they find things funny or interesting. But primarily, you see a general day to day state of anger or sadness, and that's kind of the gist of it. They won't put that face out there to the world, right? This is the mate who, in the house, the wife or the husband just beat their partner, right? Or however they identify in terms of gender, could beat up their partner at home or curse them out every single day and do cruel acts to them. But every time that, but then they want to have a barbecue on Saturday, and they're out there laughing it up with their friends in front of their friends. They're treating their wife with so much kindness and smiles and hugs and kisses in public. But the minute that they go back inside that house at the end of the night, it's like, bitch, clean this shit up or you're going to get hurt, or a slap in the face, right? So, or just cruelty. So they know that they can't show that face to the world because then the world will know that there's something wrong with them, which will then limit their ability to harm and to take and to use other people. So they don't show it to the world, but they show it to the people who are in their close personal lives.
So there's an awareness, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a social awareness of how to act in front of other people, what people want to see, what people don't want to see. So
Absolutely.
are aware. There's an awareness of of perception. There's an
Mm-hmm.
awareness
Yeah.
of I mean, of is it safe to say that they know what's right and wrong?
Oh, they absolutely know. They understand it intellectually. They fully get it. A lot of them are really intelligent people in terms of like their ability to learn and understand and get things, right? Um, but their ability to actually care or feel is missing. So they'll know that they shouldn't do this and this and that. They'll know that it's wrong. They'll understand those things. But they also know that socially, none of that is acceptable for them to do. So they're going to hide everything that they're doing and they're going to pretend to be this other person.
So there's something. So they're aware that it's socially unacceptable
Absolutely.
to do these things, so they're attempting
Mm-hmm.
to hide it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, is it safe to say, because my thinking is, well, who cares if people see? So why are they so concerned about me, about
Yeah,
following
about people
social
see. Yeah,
norms?
yeah. Because if people see them for the monster that they are, they're not going to be able to have access to anything else anymore, right? Like if you live in a community, let's say, and you are working or you are in school or you are whatever it is that you can get, right? You're not going to have access to people's children. You're not going to have access to people's homes. You're not going to have access to people's loan money when you need it. You're not going to have access to anything. You're going to become that person who's completely ostracized by the community if you don't hide who you really are. And they don't want that. They want to be able to establish victims. They want to get people to like them. A lot of times, this is another thing that that kind of fits with like the difference between television versus the real life sociopath and psychopath is like the real life sociopath or psychopath is often charming and will crack funny jokes and act like they're so connected to people around them because they've seen who people like and who people don't like from the time they were a child, where they started to notice that they were different. And then they said, what's different about me? These people are acting like this, these people are acting like that. These people are actually feeling these different things that I'm not. So let me try to act like the ones that are being liked. And they won't always do that, right? Sometimes they'll just be like they're still growing up. They don't give a F yet at any point. Some of them never grow to give a hoot. Some of them will never. Some of them will be the one ostracized by the community, never be able to work, never want to work even, and do all sorts of like little horrible things or stay to themselves in whatever way because nobody wants them around. But um, a lot of them will learn to act that different way, right? So that they can be the one who's liked. Because being liked in society means having access, means having opportunity. Even if you are, a multiple felon, if you have 15 felonies, if you can go out to a party and connect and make people laugh, you may be able to meet a wonderful husband or wife or partner who's going to support you for the next 20 years, right? Or you may be able to talk your way into being a coach for the boys team, and there's a stipend with that, but there's also 15 children you can molest, and you can sell their photos, their child porn photos on these horrible blacklisted sites, right? So they need a way to get an in order to do what they do best, which is harm other people and profit off of it in some way. So that's why they care about being liked and acting as if they're this great person.
So it's more strategic
Oh,
in
it's
that, oh, in
extreme.
order for me to
Hmm.
get this money, get access to these kids, I have to act a certain way, because if I don't act that way, then I won't have access to it. So it's not so much, there's a little bit of care. It's just like, in order for me to get where I want, I have to put on this facade. I have to put on this mask.
Exactly. 100%. Yes. Absolutely. And a lot of times, once they've gotten what they want, they'll drop the mask, right, and move on, right? If they're gonna go live in a different community and they did all these horrible things, they may be like, I don't give a fuck, bye. Like that's not uncommon for them to switch, which is also part of what's traumatic for their victims, is that when you get to know someone and you get to connect with them and you feel like even if it's a friend, whether it's a partner, whether it's a lover, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a boss, if you meet them in one way and they're kind and caring and thoughtful with you, when they drop that and they abuse you, or they do something else, they abuse someone you know, or whatever happens, and they drop that and you see who they really are, that's extremely traumatic for people, because we want to know how we can expect to be treated by the people around us, and we come to trust and believe what's shown to us about people, and we should really, but unfortunately sometimes that's taken advantage of. So that's a very traumatic thing that people experience who have dated someone who's been a sociopath or a psychopath or even a malignant narcissist, which isn't quite at the level of like sociopath and psychopath, but they're also very similar in terms of like how they treat people and how they use the people around them in their lives.
Hmm. This is all very fascinating.
Mm.
But so now what can we do? What's the answer? What's the solution?
Yeah. So there absolutely is a solution, right? Number one is like, if you know that you are a kind and compassionate person, be aware of being targeted for that. Be aware of being targeted by like the Bernie Madoffs of the world, who are, likely psychopaths or sociopaths, and will bankrupt you and your grandmother and your grandmother's grandmother and not care at all. And be aware of it in other ways. Be aware of it in terms of your romantic relationships, and keep your guard up a little bit longer than you normally might if you're a trusting and open person with a lot of empathy, right? Consider it a red flag if on date one or before date one, this person tells you their painful backstory, right? A person who is, a normal, healthy, functioning person is not going to start with their painful backstory, right? Hearing that painful backstory is a way for them telling it is a way for them to check your level of empathy and how you respond empathically. Um, and if you're dating, again, take a little bit longer. Don't allow yourself to get rushed into commitment or anything like that. Give yourself the time you need to really get to know someone. Don't ever get married until after, a year at the earliest of dating, or even 2 years is really ideal, because it's another thing that they like to do is rush you into marriage, rush you into all of these different things under the guise of we are so in love, and let's make this magic happen. They're mirroring you. You think you found your soulmate. You're believing all their lies. Time, giving yourself time, is one of the most important things. And if you find that you're working for a psychopath or a sociopath who's doing anything harmful, just run. Get another workplace, right? Like seriously. But those are the ways that you can kind of guard yourself. So again, not um, having really good boundaries, not letting your boundaries be permeable, even when you hear their sob story, right? Considering a sob story on before date one or during date one, early on, any sort of a sob story should be a red flag. And just being, really careful with who you let into your inner circle. Those are the ways that you can protect yourself.
Thank you so much for that. And then, sorry, as you were talking, I was thinking about like catfishing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that they pretend to be a celebrity, and they go after victims that tend to be elderly,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, "Oh, you know, I'm trying to get home, but I need $10,000.
Right.
Can you send me some money?" Um, would um would that count as?
It could, but it
Yeah.
has to be like part of like a larger picture. Any one incident or one horrible thing that someone does, even if they do it repeatedly, can just be character flaw, can be opportunity, like they don't feel or believe that they have another opportunity, or they feel like this is the best opportunity for them to do this, or it could be just like a lack of morality, or they don't want to actually work and do what they need to do. They're lazy or feeling whatever it could be. But it's really that you see it much broader in lots of other areas of their life as well, and in their close relationships. That's really how you would more know than any one incident of crime or like misbehavior.
Oh, so it's not just, oh, this person likes to rob elderly people, right? It
Right.
has to be part of a larger context. Like how are
Mhm.
they how are they as children, and how are they in
Right.
their other relationships,
Right.
friendships, workplace.
Exactly. Exactly. Hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, Amira, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for coming back on Hot Topics. I know this is a fun conversation, but I got to start to wrap things up. So thank you again for coming on Hot Topics, and thank you for fabulous advice that you gave.
My pleasure, Gabrielle. Thank you. And please check out my book, Healing from an Abusive Relationship: Life After the Breakup, on Amazon. Thank you.
Well, tell us more about the book. What is it about?
Okay, yeah, so the book is actually my personal story, right? Me as a grown woman, a grown professional woman in my 30s, ended up getting involved in a relationship with someone who I went to middle school with, who ended up being horrifically abusive to me and also even to our child. And so, as part of my own healing from my relationship with a psychopath, I wrote this book. And it's really to help others avoid relationships with psychopaths or heal after an abusive relationship with someone who's in that really antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic, malignant spectrum. So, that's the book.
Thank you for that. And while we're promoting your stuff, where can people find you?
Terrific. So you can find me at Amira for her, AMIRAFORHER.com, or AmiraforHim.com, on Facebook at Amira Martin. I also have an author page, Amira Martin, psychotherapist and author, on Facebook. And my business is Healing NYC on Facebook. And finally, I also do some private practice training for people who are interested in starting their own private practice. So that's on Facebook and also Instagram, Phenomenal Private Practice with Amira. And, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't know you had another website. I just okay, a mirror for him. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
all right, I did not get that, but
No problem.
all right, so there it is. All right, so I'm just going to reiterate again. So for you, if you want to get in touch with Amira, you want to take advantage of her services. If you're looking for psychotherapy, what are you taking clients?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're in New York, right?
Yeah.
All
Mm-hmm.
right. So for those, is it just local clients?
Well, it's completely virtual, so all over New York State.
Oh, oh, virtual, but just in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you guys are looking for psychotherapy, Amira is available. It is only for New Yorkers. Sorry, you guys, but she is strictly virtual. So if you are looking for psychotherapy, hit her up. The information is at the bottom of the screen. If you are watching this on video, but if you're listening to this on a podcast, the information is in the description. So make sure you check it out. She has a lot of different social media, you guys. So make sure you follow her on all of them Facebook accounts and all of them Instagram accounts. So I'm just going to run through them. So Facebook, she is under her name, Amira Martin. It's Amira.Martin. She also has another Facebook, which is no, yeah, her business Facebook, Amira Martin, psychotherapist and author. Then she has a third one called Healing NYC. And then she has a fourth one called Phenomenal Private Practice with Amira. So I want you guys to follow her on all of those Facebooks as well. She's also on Instagram as the Dr. and Lady Amira. That's one. The next one is author Amira Martin. The next one is Amira Black Brown Healing. And then the last one is Phenomenal Private Practice Amira. So after you follow her on all them Facebook accounts, then I want you to head on over to Instagram and follow her on all them Instagram accounts. And then I want you to buy her book, I'm just going to put that back up again. Then I want you to go buy her book on Amazon, Healing from an Abusive Relationship, Life After the Breakup. Learn about what happened to you and release the pain of the past so that you can have a great future. That is a long title, but make sure you buy that book on Amazon. But the link to that book will be in the description. So, it's an easy click and you get to the book right there. So I want you guys to follow Amira on all of her social media. I want you to buy her book on Amazon, and I want you to check out her website. I just have the one of them. So one of them is www.amiraforher.com. And she just gave us another website, amiraforhim.com. So that information, again, will be in the description, and it's also at the bottom of the screen for those watching on video right now.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle.
Yeah, thank you again. And I will now let you go. So thank you again for coming on Hot Topics. And I think I will see you one more time, right?
Yes,
for my third installment. Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
All righty. All right, you guys. We have now reached the conclusion of yet another episode. Thank you again for coming on Hot Topics. So now let me take this time to remind you that Hot Topics is a production of my company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are looking for any kind of academic assistance, whether it's for yourself or for your child or someone close to you, maybe they're struggling in school, maybe they're falling behind on homework, maybe they're not coming to school as much as they should, maybe the teacher's always complaining, maybe you're always complaining, whatever the situation is, reach out to us. Our tutors are available. The website is www.estepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Eventbrite. So we're also on WhatsApp as well if you want to check us out there. Just look for us. The name is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. With the exception of Twitter, Twitter is a different name. It is ASATS2013. But if you just type in our name, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, we will pop up. So follow us on social media, learn more about us. Again, I will give you that website one more time, www.estepaheadtutoringservices.com. So make sure if you are looking for them tutoring services, make sure you take advantage of those services. Reach out to us to get them services, whether for yourself or for your child. All right. Thank you guys again for watching Hot Topics. Don't forget to follow us and, let us know your thoughts about this episode for today. Drop a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. Let us know your thoughts and help us out on the algorithm, you guys. So drop a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. And don't forget to rate us on your favorite podcast platform. All right, you guys, thank you again. And I look forward to you joining us at the next episode. Thank you again, you guys. Now I am signing off.